Hi everyone, just getting set up here. Right now I'm going to send out the tweet with the link to this test so others can follow along. The idea here is we're going to be testing 5 materials today. These materials may behave differently on different machines. I'm using the default profiles for the Prusa. I had to kind of develop a profile for the Ender. There are some community profiles and whatnot, and there's manufacturer profiles, but it comes with a really old version of Kira, so I don't think it's realistic to use the profiles that it comes with. Either way, hey John Mack, how are you doing? Either way, it may not be fair to the Ender or not, but it is the profile I would use on the Ender, at least until I get more tuning out of it. And I think it's a very typical experience for an Ender owner to have to figure out their own profiles. That said, let me go ahead and get a copy of this sent out to at least Twitter so others can join in. John Mack must have rang the bell. Thank you for joining. So let me, yeah, boom. I need to add more photos. So yeah. Oh, hey Paul, how are you doing? Just leaving in time. Cool. Yeah, so I think this will be exciting. I don't know what will happen here. For the most part, I'm going to probably, if prints fail on the first layer or stop sticking, I might give them another try. But if prints just look real bad at the top, just because that's how the printer is handling it, then that's what it is. But I don't want the bed adhesion to be a part of this test. It was not meant to be. So just try and get this one tweet out. PETG, TPU, ASA. And so, yeah, we're doing 5 different filaments: PLA, PETG, TPU, ASA, and ABS. And I need to paste that and do it. I think that might be it. All right, so let's go ahead and tweet that. Cool. All right, so let's go ahead and kind of get this thing kicked off. It did not transition. That's supposed to transition for me. Transition. Why won't it? It decides it won't work at all for me. Here we go. All right. So yes, as I said here, welcome. We're getting started right now. We're going to do a test of these 3 machines. I'm going to go ahead and get these tests started, and then I'll talk about the test. That way, we can talk while it's behaving. So, let's get this. Let me just get all these kind of going. No, I want to stop that. So this one has PLA. Okay. Here's the Mark III, and you can see the Mark III next to the other printers, of course, but the Mark III is a little bit bigger here. And all of these are going to be done, this one has the ASA. All of these are going to be done in open air, so obviously ASA and ABS might give a lot of problems, but it's just what it is. If I don't get it to stick, then that's what happens. And then the Ender, I think I have to say, let me see, refresh the card. Okay, cool. The Ender has PETG on it, so am I on the screen? Yeah. So let's do PETG. All right. So those should all be heating up. Hopefully I don't pop a fuse or anything here. I have 3 printers all heating up, and 2 lights going, and then of course the computer and everything else. Hey, how's it going? Never let the machines win. That's right. And let me just say, I'm not wearing my hat, but that's okay. Let me just say, today's shirt is brought to you by Alien 3D. No, the shirt was free in the Alien 3D UFO box. I didn't get it as any sort of special favor. I'm a subscriber, a paid subscriber. So, in the middle, we have the Prusa MINI printing with atomic PLA. On the end here, we have the Prusa Mk3S printing with Prusa ASA. And over on the right here, we have the Ender 3 printing with, I think it's called Green Gates. Let me see. Yes, Green Gate 3D recycled PETG. So we'll get to see all of these print. They're all preloaded. Once they all print, the filaments are all going to just rotate. And then when we're done those, I'm going to bring in Amazon Basics ABS and M3D TPU. I picked the M3D TPU because it's not as floppy, and it should be easier for some printers that might struggle with it. I'm fairly certain the extruder on the Ender 3 won't handle the Ninja Flex, and so I just figured let's go for an easy TPU, and it's one of the easier ones. So yeah, these are kind of like a mix of filaments, not one brand. It's something that I think a lot of people might have at home anyway. It would be just some random mix that they find on Amazon or a deal. Only one of these is the Prusa Mint, and that's the ASA, and primarily because recently Prusa has been pushing ASA as the alternative to ABS, which we'll see. We are in open air here. I don't know what the room temp is. I don't know if I have a great way to see. Let me see what my thermostat says. My thermostat says 67 Fahrenheit. So this file I developed, here's a print in PLA. This file I developed in Tinkercad. It has a few features about it, and I'm sorry, I gotta try to get this focus. Has a few features about it. Out of the 3 of these, the Mini is the only one printing yet. Okay, the Ender just started, and it's because the Mini had the least amount to heat up. But so that's a 10%, 20%, 30%, and 40% not overhang, just essentially angle. So just kind of seeing where things lie there. Surprisingly, it did very well, and this came off the Mini earlier. We're just looking at this for discussion though, but it did very well at the 20% on this run. This is Prusa Mint here, but we're not counting this in this test. Still trying to get some focus out of this, but the hole you see there is actually sized to 2.6 millimeters hexagon, and so the idea is you can fit a 2.5 millimeter Allen wrench in there to see kind of like your fitment. The spire in the middle is just to see how the point might come out in a spire. It's not, I guess, a true spire because you have the other poles on both sides that might that help the cool down feature. And the top is a bridge, and we have a middle bridge right here. And then the left is a tower with a 1.85 millimeter hole. It comes out usually undersized, and it depends on the slicer. So a lot of things that you might see wrong with this actually come through because of the slicer or because of slicer features. The only thing I really saw here are these overhangs didn't perform as well as I thought, especially the 30%, and the bridge has a little droop in it. So that's the only thing I really saw. There might be just a slight amount of hair somewhere, but it didn't even make it all the way across. So, but yeah, see, there's a little bit right there, but we'll see how it goes with the actual test. So the Mark III should be starting soon. The ender, although it kind of started, I thought it started. Now it says the extruder is still heating. The extruder is at 237 and still trying to reach 240. So it's kind of struggling to do that. The Mark III is heating the bed to 105, which is higher than either of the other two printers can get to. And it's heating the hot end to 260, which it's already at. So the Mark III should start any minute. There goes the ender. Hopefully we'll see it. Hopefully it all sticks. I don't know much about printing on the ender surface, so I went ahead and applied a little glue stick to protect it. There's the Mini printing right now. So the Mini has already started the 10% overhang, and there goes the Mark III. I have some sort of noise on the Z. I don't know what it is. It's probably something loose. It's what it is. It's a machine that gets used all the time. And again, you know, the only thing we're looking for here is to just kind of get a print that sticks all the way through. If they fail to stick or have a bad first layer, then I will restart them, or I'll give them like 2 more chances with some adjustment. Then we'll move on. All right. Trying to look under the nozzle right now on the Ender 3. The Ender 3 does look like it's sticking well. The Mark III has just started, and hopefully in a few minutes we'll see if it's sticking that well. I definitely see it doing the bed thing. And the Mini, of course, is chugging along. The Mini had the easiest time because it started with the lowest temp filament we have here. Well, the TPU might be lower, but it had an easier time. The other day when I did the TPU for the Mini, I did it with my own profile because I have some experience with speeds and TPU. For this one, I used out of the box what Prusa provided, so it may not perform as well as it did the other day. We don't know yet. These are the TPU prints from the other day off the Mini. I'll show you what I have. It's only the first millimeter of the octopus. This one is the TPU we'll be using today by M3D, and this one, which is a little bit more floppy, is TPU called Ninja Flex by Ninja Tech. So it's a little bit more floppy, but they're both about 1 millimeter. You do see a bit more stringing with the Ninja Tech, and that's just because it's a softer material. Probably needs a little bit more retraction too. And then the TPU by M3D actually was doing very well, but they are both very flexible. So it's been going well. I have been keeping notes on the Mini. I found kind of like a few little kind of quirks, I guess. Kind of random things. The other day I was printing something and I decided from the couch to log into the website that it publishes, you know, that we found the other day, and it actually caused the printer to freeze and blue screen. But the other day when we were testing it, it worked fine. I clicked the cancel button on the printer right there to reboot it, and started another print, and then tried again to go back to my browser and tell it to connect, and it worked just fine. I tried 3 more times and I could not get it to fail the same way it did that first time. So I don't know what may have caused it. Could just simply be a ghost in the machine. Hey Kevin, how's it going? So yeah, I think these might be good tests. If anything, it might be for people who say, okay, if I get a Mini and I use the default out of the box profile, or if I get a Mark III, use default out of the box profile, how is it going to handle these 5 materials? Because a lot of times it can be hard to find that. Let me see. Let me post this to Reddit too. Maybe image. I just have to decide what I want to post here. Mini. Ugh, typing is hard. Hey Benji, how's it going? Oh, from Poland, awesome. So it already, no, actually maybe it is going okay. As I said, all of these machines, and I'm just kind of trying to think my way through it, but all of these machines are 100% stock, not even a different nozzle. And the Ender 3 and the Mini are more or less brand new, and this Mark III is probably got 6 months of printing on it, maybe 8 months of printing on it. So the Mark III might have a disadvantage in that sort of fact. It just has some age. So that's the Mark III that's printing ASA right now. I'll probably end up, hey Sabretooth. 8 o'clock, okay.
Sabretooth is a fictional character appearing in American comic books published by
So
Marvel
Siri
Comics,
thought I asked a question. Stop,
with
Siri.
Would you like to?
No, I don't want anything, Siri. All right. Hi, Sabretooth. I hope I don't set my phone off again. 8:43 there. That's not bad. All right, so it seems like the Mark III is doing very well. Here is the Mini, and sorry, the camera will keep moving a little bit here. The Mini right now is printing the PLA, and I gotta try to get it under there. The Ender 3 is doing PETG. I think the Ender 3 will have problems with the ASA and ABS because the Ender 3 has limits on max temperature. Some people may argue it, but the hot end limit, or at least when you tell it to heat to ABS, is 240. The bed, when you tell it to heat ABS, is 70. It's not my printer, it's actually a gift, so I'm not going to push it beyond its limits. But the bed is 70 because of the way they did their magnetic bed. The hot end limit is supposedly because it has a PTFE liner that goes to the nozzle, and that will break down once you pass 240. It may not break down right away. You might be able to print at 260 for months, and you might be fine, and that's fine. So, a lot of people from Europe. That's awesome. If you guys have any questions about any of these three printers, I'll do my best to answer them. And I'll probably share this. I will share this test file probably on Thingiverse, just so you guys can try it too. Something about the Mini that, at first I'm like, oh, that's awesome. This Mini is very cool. Is you can get to that hot lock really easy to change your nozzle. But then I thought, this is the only printer I've ever owned where I actually would be concerned about little kids trying to touch it. The other printers, it's so hard to get to the hot end. So see, the Mark III is almost, you'd have to really get under there. And same with the Ender, you'd have to really get under there to get to that nozzle. But this, if you touch that silver block anywhere, you're in trouble. That's an instant blister there. So developing a little shroud, like a little finger guard there, would not be too hard, fortunately. I think what you'd want to do is get a slightly longer screw for the fan on the left, and just kind of develop an ABS or ASA shroud that will screw in there and kind of just like wrap around the front without interfering with the operation of the printer. Volt door print. Hey, Sean. No, I haven't printed your Volt door, man. I've been so busy. I had we were at work. We were working on like a smart card integration on some software, and so I had to work yesterday because I had to make sure it all worked because we're launching Monday. And so, anyway, long story short, I had to work yesterday, so I'm way behind. Yes, I believe Z. Yes, I just saw Z hop. So the Ender is Z hopping. When I made this profile for the Ender, I did a string test, and it came out very well. Only the slightest wisp on the string test, and part of that is the Z hop, and I think it also does like a kind of like a not a well, it does a retraction, but it does like a wipe before it moves. So it really is meant to. Well, I mean, I really meant it to be a true profile for the Ender. Unfortunately, I only had like a day of testing on it because I'm new to the Ender. So it's not even a day of testing. I think I tested it on live stream and maybe for 2 or 3 prints. So the Mini is almost done. What I'll probably do with the Mini is maybe throw ABS on it. I've not opened this Amazon Basics ABS. This is the old Amazon Basics. I believe it's developed, or it's now called Overture. And their new Amazon Basics has a different look to it. But you can see how they have this thing vacuum sealed tight as a drum here. I was hoping for like a little whiz of air going through, but they really had it sealed. But yeah, what I'll do is I'll get this ABS on the Mini once that print finishes. So, but that's the ABS Blue from Amazon. Yeah, it could be. So the point of this test, there's a few things. One, I wanted to give some like overhang tests and a few other things. But the other point of this test is I wanted like a 15-minute test. I didn't want to test, like if I did a half-hour test, then a half-hour times 5 is going to be too long for you all. I really hope that I can get this stream done in an hour and a half of testing 5 materials on 3 different printers. It might be a little bit of a challenge, but we'll see. Okay, so there's the Prusa Mini. Let's see. It actually looks like it came out better than my earlier print with the Prusa Mint. So it looks like the Atomic PLA might have done a little bit better. You can see a little bit of string, like a fine wisp in this filament. Now the Prusa Mint did not have the fine wisp, but the Prusa Mint didn't do as well on those overhangs. This was not really meant to be, though, a comparison between Prusa Mint and whatnot. This is really meant to be, we'll see all 3 of these later as a comparison. So let me go ahead and unload this. Oops. I think I accidentally told it to print. Let me unload this. Unload. And let me try to get this off. Yeah, that came off pretty easy. So. Oh, the Ender's done. Let's look at the Ender. Shoot. I missed the end of the filament there. All right, so we have quite a few more wisps there. It did very well for those overhangs. The bottom one's 10%, the middle one's 20, then 30, then 40, and it did well for the bridge. So we'll take a look at that too, and that's PETG. PETG tends to be stringier, so you really can't compare that to the PLA print yet. we're gonna move all these filaments. So here's this stuff. I don't want to load that up. I'll swap this out. A little bit harder to remove from the bed for the PETG. Right. All right, just swapping these around. I'm going to put the PETG in the Mini, just because this is how it's working out. I'm going to put the PLA on the ender, so we're basically just swapping the two. And then, if I can find the hole, and then the ABS will end up going over to the Mark III. And that actually works out better because the Mark III just hit ASA, so the transition to the ABS should be a little bit better for that. In the ender, you have a lot less choice for how to preheat or what to load. You can preheat for PLA or you can preheat for ABS, and that's pretty much all you get. The loading and unloading of the filament on the ender is a lot more of a manual process. All right. All right, so let's go ahead and get the Mini loaded too. So let's go to filament, load filament, PETG, waiting for temp. Okay, so that's waiting for temp. The ender is loaded for PLA, so we will print the PLA test. And it looks like the Mark III has finished. That's ASA off the Mark III in open air. It's a small print though. The fact it didn't warp off the bed is probably just happy coincidence. So, all right. And let's go ahead and get this unloaded. So, we're unloading this one. We are getting ready to load the Mini. So the Prusas have more of a guided load and unload. And the ender is currently just trying to heat the extruder to start its next print. Press the knob to unload the filament. So we'll do that. Take this off. This will probably go to the Mini next. The TPU will be absolutely the last one to load because if we run into any problems with the TPU, I don't want to stop any of the other materials from testing. And so we'll do the Amazon basics. It's still heated for the ASA, which is fine. ASA, ABS can work within a certain temperature range. Okay, so this has finished loading. It's asking if our color is correct, which, you know, it's coming out as purple. So we're good. So we'll say yes. And print, and this is the PETG. So we'll do the PETG. So first thing it's going to do, first thing it's going to do is lower our temp. Although we were all the way up for loading, it's going to lower us all the way to 170. All right, and the ABS, we'll do a little extra load here. Which printer's the fastest? Honestly, probably the Mark III by far. That's if you change a lot of their defaults. You can get it really fast. I'd probably bet I can get the Mini faster than the Ender, but I really don't know. All right, we'll say yes, and we will print, and we will do the, where is ABS? We'll do the ABS profile. Okay. So the temps are slightly different for ABS versus ASA, so it's going to change the temps and then it should start. This one is about ready to start, and the Ender is chugging along. Now if you remember last time, the Mini started first. This time the Ender started first because the Ender is using the PLA, which lower temps are just easier to hit. And I need to somehow mark these test results here. Let me find a Sharpie. I should have a Sharpie somewhere. Let's see how we can mark these. Okay, Mark III. All right, so the Mini is heating back up to temperature for the material, and then it should start too. It looks like it will be the last one to start. This is the Mini. So there's the Mini. And this is the Ender. The Ender, when I pulled it off the bed, it kind of pulled the bottom layer away. This is kind of like a bed adhesion issue. It's not really part of the test, so I'm going to clip off that bottom layer a little bit, because this test was never really designed to test bed adhesion. So I left everything else as is, so you can see we have some light stringing and stuff. Again, PETG can be challenging with that, so we'll have to see how it performs. It did great for the overhangs. It did great for the bridge. I think the bridge looks really good. So here's the hex end. It's made to fit like the 2.5, which comes with just about every printer out there, so you can kind of see if it works. That hole is supposed to fit a piece of filament, but I think, and we'll try it, but I think the slicer may have made it too small. Here's the Mini, so a little bit of pushing in, but it went in there. So, and you do see there is some fine wisps in there. Let me try to get a focus on it. You can kind of see it glint in the light, some of the fine wisps there. And again, we're not really comparing these fairly yet because they're different materials. And then there's the ASA on the Mark III, and I mean the ASA actually looks better than the other two. It looks a lot cleaner, a lot more uniform. The Mini absolutely gets over the 240. So, in fact, right now the Mini is running at 250. With the ASA, fitting the tool in is a lot harder than it was for the PLA or PETG on the other two printers. This could be a problem with the ASA, maybe more so than the printer, and we won't know until we get the ASA printed on some of the other printers. So that's what we have so far. Yeah, it's a tough weight, Dan. It's a really tough weight. You know, I was thinking I should have bought 2 of these things, because within 3 months I'm probably going to want another one. Your first roll of Overture was good. So, yeah, I think it's exactly the same stuff that... let me make sure these are sticking. Okay, I think they're all sticking. So, I think Overture is the same stuff that Amazon was using. So, here's the ABS print. Here's PETG on the Mini. And here is PLA on the Ender. Sorry for the glare. So hopefully we'll get to see those when they come out. Yeah, you guys don't need to look at me. You guys can look at prints. So we'll just pick one. So everything I've seen, the Mini absolutely has all metal hot end. Out of the box. The Mini also has auto leveling out of the box, which a lot of the printers in that price range and lower don't have any sort of leveling, or the leveling isn't very good. There are some quirks though. Let me switch over to the desktop. So let me swap this around. Sorry guys, you're looking at like a window within a window. So this is the file that we're printing. So right here, if you guys can see the mouse, we have a 10%, then we have a 20%, 30%, and 40%. Here we have a 2.6 millimeter hole that should fit a 2.5 millimeter wrench, depending. I mean, there's material questions and everything else in there. Up here we have a 1.85 millimeter hole. Really challenging to get into, but the slicer, just to make these lines even, could have shrunk this hole a little bit. So I might need to kind of tweak that a little bit. And we have a bridge up here. We have a smaller bridge here. We have a very small point here as a test as well. We're not testing the base really, and we're not testing the bed adhesion with this. This is not meant for that. We also have a extrusion width of exactly 0.8, which should handle a 0.4 nozzle. So this test wouldn't be good on like a 0.5 nozzle, at least not with the slicer settings I'm using. But that's pretty much it. Pretty simple features. But it's a little bit more than a string test, because it's a string test as well. It's a little bit more than a string test. It's not every test you could possibly imagine, but some of those tests are just repeating what something else already shows, or some of the tests are more or less testing your slicer more so than the printer, and I don't think those are very valuable. So hopefully that was all on screen for you. I think it's a great first printer. Something I also like about it is it guides you through a lot of stuff like load filament, unload filament, etc. And that guidance is only going to improve as oh, you guys are looking at the wrong thing anyway. Let me transition you guys back. That's really only going to improve as time goes on and as they mature this firmware. Unfortunately, the Mini firmware, I mean, it's a brand new board for Prusa. So it's a very young firmware, where the Mark III, I mean, it's on who knows what revision, and was able to borrow heavily from the Mark II. So it really wasn't quite the starting over as the Mini is. I mean, there are pluses and minuses. Waiting 3 months means anything they find in the firmware will probably be fixed by then. Anything they find mechanical will probably also be fixed by then. It looks like the ABS isn't doing as well as the ASA. So Prusa does say ASA is a better material than ABS, and at least this ABS, which was sealed vacuum tight, just is not performing as well as that ASA is. Hey Robbie Mac, how are you doing? Just trying to get the camera. Sorry for all the wiggles and wobbles. Looks like the ender is nearing the finish. Let's see. Trying to decide which order I want to go in next. So I think maybe I'll put the ABS on the ender next, and then the ASA on the Mini. Hey Viking, I didn't see you joined. Yes, so anything that's using a genuine E3D V6, such as the Mark III, or anything that's used, or the Mini, for example, doesn't have a PTFE that goes to the hot side of the nozzle, so it never gets over that 200 degrees. The Ender 3 you can absolutely upgrade to an all-metal hot end, and then you would also solve your problem. Alright, which one's going to finish first? $93, $53, $81. So it looks like the Ender 3 will finish first. Maybe the Ender 3 will get the ASA. Maybe I'll change my mind there, just because it's finishing. That is true. The E3D V6 Lite, which is not the same hot end really. It just looks like it. The E3D V6 Lite does have the PTFE, and I would caution that. All right, so let's see if we can get this off the bed. The Ender 3 bed seems to stick better than the Prusa beds. All right, so what we're going to do is tell it to stay hot. Actually, heat it up to the ABS. Preheat ABS. That will help us when we're ready to load. And then we're going to pull out the PLA. PLA will go right over to the Mark III. I actually like this dual holder on the Mark III. I thought it was silly at first. I thought it was like kind of like false advertisement. It makes it look like it's a dual extruder. But it's really good when you're swapping filaments, because you can just set the next one on while the other one's still being printed. And here we go with some ASA in the Ender 3. This might be a real challenge for the Ender 3, unfortunately. The Ender 3 process is a lot more manual. You can manually drive the extruder to get this stuff to go in, but what I do is I squeeze this clamp and push it in by hand until enough material comes out of the other end. So. III is loaded. Let's clear off the Mark III has just finished. So there's the Mark III. This is with the ABS from Amazon. It looks a lot worse than the ASA, and this was from a freshly sealed pack that was completely vacuum sealed. It was tight as a drum when I opened it. So there we go there. And while it's doing that, we will tell it to unload the filament. We have to tell it what we're unloading. And we'll make sure it's hot enough before it unloads it. Okay, so let me mark these. This is from the Mark III. All right, so that is ABS from the Mark III. I'll try to hold that better for y'all. There is some wisps in there on that ABS, and the overhangs all look kind of like crap. All right, we'll unload this. Now, we're loading PLA, so what we want to do is we want to probably start the load, and while it's loading, we're going to go ahead and turn down the nozzle. And turn down the bed. We don't need the bed that hot for PLA. Alright. So, and it asks if it's correct. We'll say no a few times, because switching between these materials can be challenging. And sorry about this, I've got to find a way to do all this. The Ender 3, I got to clear that out, but the Ender 3 is more or less ready to go here. And we will print for ASA. And how close is it? I want to make sure I keep that nozzle charged. Oops, I got to grab that. There we go. So there it goes on ASA. It looks like it's extruding. Oh, it looks like it's not really sticking. We'll see if it recovers. If not, we'll just restart it. Might be a challenge with such a low bed temp. All right, so we're ready here. So we're going to print, and this is the PLA. So let me set PLA here. PLA. Cool. And the Mini is almost done. So did I write on that one too? All right, so here is the PLA print for the Ender. Let me uncover that. The overhangs did outstanding. The bridge is outstanding. The bridge for some reason seems a little thin to me. Let's look at the Mini. Maybe it's just me. No, you know what? What it probably is, I mean, maybe it is thin, but what it probably is the Ender probably did that bridge cleaner than the Mini. It's having some sort of problems on the first layer or something. I'm not sure what's causing that yet. Maybe I'm just too close to the bed. But again, this was not meant as a first layer test, but we do have a little gunk down there. But yeah, those overhangs look great. There is some very fine wisps in there. There are, that didn't sound good. There are some fine wisps on the Mini as well. So, yeah. No, so if you look, yeah, so there is a difference in the bridge. So the Mini, man, I need this camera to focus. Right. The Mini is the one on the bottom, but let me try to get this focus in. Okay. The Ender is the one on the top. It's not quite full there. Where the Mini actually has, like, you have a second layer with you have the infill going back and forth on it, where the Mini or the Ender just seems to have just like it missed a layer or something. I don't know. It's weird. It's potentially less substantial there. So the other thing is, it looks like the spire in the middle, this is the Mini over here, the spire in the middle on the Mini got a little bit pointier than on the Ender. The overhangs look much better on the Ender. It could be simply the Ender has better cooling. Alright, the Mini did finish its PETG. Let me try to get that free there. And while it, oops, man, I keep doing that. I have to get used to this because the default option always is print another. So we're going to unload our filament there. Quite stuck. PETG on the PEI sheet that the Prusas use is a little bit more challenging. So there is the PETG from the Mini. The overhangs look a little bit better than the PLA did. A lot of fine wisps, stringing, and a little bit of a dip in the bridge. And I kind of saw that dip in the bridge on the PLA as well. Let's see. It wasn't this PLA though. This PLA didn't dip like that, but an earlier PLA print I did had that little bit of a dip on that left side of that bridge, and I'm trying to get that in for you. But where's my PETG? Here's the PETG from the Ender. In this case, I want to say the stringing looks about the same. The Mini got a little bit pointier on the spire. Again, the Mini has a more substantial, and I don't know why that is, because they both, I mean, it literally is the same slicer settings, more or less. I mean, very weird. And yeah, the overhangs, I want to say on both are right about equal for the PETG. So let me write Mini on this. All right. Looks like the ASA is working somewhat on the Mini, or on the Ender, I'm sorry. I gotta keep all these straight. Okay, and what's up with chat? James Harris. Oh, welcome, thank you. Yeah, welcome to the stream. Absolutely keep the Mini order. You know, even if you don't want the Mini, it might be a little bit nice to sell for a little while. And I'm not saying to go out and buy a Mini just for the point of selling it, but if you already have the order and you've already put in some wait time, try to, I don't know, take your time and decide, because you should have no problems 100% recouping your costs out of that. Where does this go next? I think it goes right over here to the Mark 3. I do like that Mark 3 spoiler. It's weird. I thought it was, I really did think it was kind of lame when I first got it. But I like that I can kind of prep my next roll on it. I absolutely hated the Mark II spoiler. That was the worst design I've ever seen for a spoiler. Sorry, it's just true. All right, so let's get this Mini started. I've been talking too much. we will load filament. Load, and we are loading. We're loading ABS. The Mini doesn't give that in the menu, but we're going to just choose ASA since it's very, very similar. Yeah, I hope. Yeah, the price is nice. I think for a lot of people who are having who were having a hard time deciding whether or not to jump to the Mark III or to stick with a more affordable printer, really, really now have a choice or a tough choice, because now you can get some of these nice features such as the bed leveling and the nicer magnetic bed and the all metal hot end and the nicer extruder. So you're getting all these nice features for a lower price than you could before. It's still not as cheap as some of the other printers, but it's really a thought now. Yeah. What else do we have in here? Thank you for joining, everyone. SS220 Astro, computer went up. I know I said hi to you, Robbie Mack. How's it going today? 3D Print Viking, James, Sholm is out there somewhere. I know I saw John out there. I saw Mike out there, and a whole bunch of other friends from Europe. So we're ready to load here. Okay. The Mini needs a little bit of a push on the filament to get it really going into the extruder. It's a little bit tighter. It's fine. It's something that can be handled. Now here's the ender printing the ASA. It's not doing great on the overhangs, but I am shocked, at such a low temp and such a low bed temp that it's gotten this far. It does look like we have a little bit of gunk on the nozzle though. All right, here's the Mini, asking if our load went okay. It looks appropriate. Looks like we have, oh, that PETG really wants to stick. It was formerly PETG, and that's what was sticking to the bed. So let's go ahead and say, yeah, that's correct. Print, and this is the ABS. Get that out of there before I burn myself. I'm not going to burn myself on TV or whatever this is. So it does seem a lot easier to burn yourself on the Mini. Been taking some other notes on some things that was like, okay, this is I had a weird problem when I pulled a drive after a print was finished. I pulled the drive out after the print finished, and while it was on the finished printing screen, and I put a new file on it, I put it in, and I went over to leave that print screen, and it asked if I wanted to finish the print or stop the print, but it was already done, so it shouldn't have done that. It should have just taken me out to the menu. But I said yes, stop the print, and it took me out to the home menu, and I told it to start printing the next file, and it just refused to start. It didn't even start preheating. It was a very weird behavior out of it. Yeah, the spool holder, it's not compatible with samples, so if you subscribe to a sample box, it's not really going to be compatible. Easy enough to print something or to rig something up to hold that sample spool for you, or just maybe lay the sample spool on the table and it probably won't get into any way. So and then there's just some little things, but for the most part it's been great. I've not seen any issues with wobbling. I don't know if you all saw the live stream the other day. Let me make sure. I can't see my screen right now. So this came out beautifully off the Mini. Looked really good. You can see in the wing maybe a little bit of a striation right there. But I mean, this is a nice model. This is the model I normally print on Mark IIIs when I build them, and this thing really does look good. Yeah, so that was the other day. I think Buddy was one of the first prints I did. Buddy the dog comes with the printer. Looks really good. And I've been doing some Marvins because I opened some new rolls. So this is Prusa MINI Galaxy Purple, I think. Came out really clean. I want to say this Marvin came out cleaner than it did on the Mark III. And here's another Marvin. This is Prusa MINI Pearl Mouse. It's a weird color. It's like silver and gold mixed together. I guess you could call it champagne. So the screen door is putting like a weird effect on this. So there is no, if you're seeing weird lines in there, there's no weird lines. It's the screen door that the sunlight's coming through. But that came through really well. So very cool stuff. So the Mini is heating up the nozzle to 255 for the well, it thinks it has ASA loaded, but the profile I'm printing with is ABS sliced. So it's heating up to 255, and it's keeping the bed at 100. Slightly different than the Mark III, which can get the bed over 100. The Mini actually prefers not to go over 100. Oh, I left this string there. Shoot. That might be a problem. So it is very interesting. You could probably force it in the slicer profile to go over 100 just fine. But maybe the power supply doesn't have the power for it or something. I wouldn't push it if you didn't have to. All right, the ASA is finished on the Ender. It looks, I don't know. Well, something happened there. That whole top end looks thicker and it looks shorter than normal. I'm gonna have to kind of scrape that off that bed though. All right. I'm wondering if the Ender is printing shorter. Maybe the Z steps aren't right. Need repair for ABS. All right. I think the Mini is the only one who hasn't done the ASA yet. Absolutely done the PETG? No, something hasn't done the PETG. What hasn't done PETG yet? I have it written. Prusa. Mini Ender. So it looks like the Mark III has a few left. Actually, it looks like all of them have done 2, which makes sense, right? So I just have to figure out which one I can put on the Ender. Where's our chat? So I think print quality wise, so far it's been what I'd call on par with the Mark III. Speed wise, it is a little bit slower than the Mark III. And on the Mark III, you can really overdrive it. You can hit that speed very hard, and it's going to keep up with it. Where the Mini, I bet you, if you try to overdrive it, it's going to show even more artifacts from the design. But for the design it has, it seems like they've well tuned the profiles to it. So, okay. Now, here is. Sorry, it's hard to see both of these at the same time. So the one on the left is the Ender. The one on the right is the Mark III. The sunlight is coming through the door and it's making it very hard here. But you can see the Ender is a lot more rough on the overhangs for the ASA. The Ender did do the ASA, so I think enough tweaking of that profile and you might be okay. both of these actually, if you look at that pillar on the left, they both kind of slide to the left a little bit on that very top of the pillar where the bridging finishes. Again, the bridging on the ender is coming across very weak. You can see through it there actually, and the Mark III, it completes both layers properly, I guess. And there might be like a little height issue here. No, maybe not, but trying to get that through. You can see how like that top pillar just slides to the left there. And of course on the ender, again, it's not really making the spire as pointy. So, sorry for the focus. Yeah, this ASA came out so clean on the Mark III, I was surprised. I was really thinking that this would come out really rough because we're doing this open air. Even for the ender, I think a little bit more tweaking and tuning, you could get this thing to clean up. All right, so the Mark III has just finished the PLA. Let's go ahead and preheat for PET. And we'll preheat for PET and get that going next. But all the PLA prints are done, and we'll look at those. I'm going to use a scraper. Maybe I should have done one more layer on the base of these. We have a little bit of goop here. This goop is usually caused by something stuck to the nozzle when it starts. However, that's what came out. The overhangs look really good. The bottom one, which is the 10% overhang, maybe a little bit rough there. But yeah, that goop is absolutely from, you can see it on the side there. There's something like on the nozzle that maybe I didn't clean or whatever. But that happens from time to time when you have dirty nozzles. The very top, the overhang here looks really good. So we'll see that. Where the print finish, you have a little string there, no big deal. And the stringing inside the PLA, I don't see any really. There does not appear to be any stringing in there. Let's see the Mini. So here's the Mini. Stringing wise, the Mini has a little bit more, just a little bit of fuzz in there. I'm trying to show that on camera. These little Logitechs, man. But maybe it catches in the light every once in a while. But the Mini is right here, and you have that little bit of stringing in there. The bridge on the Mini looks a little bit more rough, just slightly. So let me do that. And the spire on the Mini actually looks like it came out better than it did on the Mark III. But the overhangs on the Mini look worse than the Mark III. So they look just a little bit more rough, especially on the ends there. And let me see if I can line these up. Before I do that, let me get the Mark III started again. So we will go ahead and unload our filament. The PETG is recycled PETG. I don't know where my clippers went, but yes, everything was sliced with Prusa slicer. That did mean for the ender I had to build the profile, which means maybe the ender is at a slight disadvantage. I don't know. That's up to you to decide. And you know, everybody would like to possibly say, oh, it's just not fair, or I have better profiles. And to be honest, there's better profiles for these machines on the internet too. But I wanted to go with default profiles as much as I could. And these are stock machines. And again, the Ender 3 and the Mini are more or less new machines. So we're printing PETG here. So there it is, PETG. All right, so that should start. We're all done the PLA, so I can put that away. And 3. And so there's the Mini printing the ABS, and there's the ABS from the Mark III. So it doesn't really look like it's doing much worse than the Mark III did. But this is ABS, brand new, but in open air. All right. And do I have anything I can feed through the ender? The ender has done everything so far except for the ABS, so I'm going to wait for the ABS for the ender because I want to do TPU dead last on any machine. It's just what I want. So let's look at these. Let me try to get these in some sort of order here. So maybe we'll do Mark III, Mini, then ender in the back. Stand up. Sorry, just trying to get these things to stand. And Mark III. So these are the materials we've done so far. So that's Mark III is the one in the front. And those are different materials. So the blue is ABS, the red is PLA, the orange is ASA, and this purple, which might not be coming through as purple, is PETG. The Mini is the one in the middle, and the ender is the one in the back. So we have a few more to print, which is fine. We'll have it all done soon. But you can see, like, even between like the Mini and the ender, the PETG did a lot more stringing. The ender has, I want to say, less than the Mini did. The Mini almost looks like completely encased in spider webs there, where the ender has just a less of that stringing. Consistently though, on the top here, on the tops, the Mini looks more solid, while the ender is like almost transparent. It's like it just decided not to do the other layer, and that's consistent across all the materials. So that could be simply a profile problem. I might need to work on that profile some more. Who knows? They all seem to be coming out with more or less the same height, so that doesn't seem to be much of an issue. The ender doesn't seem to be doing as well with the spire in the center. It seems less pointy than it does on the other two printers. So, and yeah, if you want to see any of these perhaps more up close, I know the camera just decides to do its own focus. What I'll probably do is make an album, and in the post on Reddit and on the tweet, I will post the photos of all of these taken on like a flat background. All right, the Mini has finished. I have to switch these around, so we need to tell this, go home, tell this to unload the filament. And we will remove, I don't want to forget this first line this time. We'll remove this and put that in place on what we're working with. All right. The ramming process that they do for the Mini, I kind of wish they would do the ramming process for the Mark III. It seems to help the transition between filaments go a lot smoother. I don't know why. Maybe going back and forth encourages it to suck more of the filament out of the printer. Are we up to heat? We are up to heat. This ender was just going to stay hot for us. I don't know if the ender does it, but the Prusa printers, if you leave them hot for too long, they will turn themselves off if you forget. Come on. Good there. And we will say filament load. This is ASA, so we'll say ASA. And it's already hot, so we will say continue. There we go. I noticed that the extruder motor is quite loud on the Mini. I don't know if, I'm sure you heard that. So, all right. I really should clean off the nozzle. All right. Not too much. Yep. Not much has happened. We finished some prints. We have our difference in print quality. Sorry, this one from the ender fell over. The bottom was a little rough on it. But so far, all 4 printers are handling all the materials. Let's go ahead and pull this out and say, yes, we're good. Print, and this is the ASA. Oh, that's a problem with this. So, like, all these test files are called the same thing, but the last 3 letters are either ASA or TPU or whatever. This does not scroll the name at all. So anything you have written to the right of whatever the max length is, you can't read. So you, so if you're putting in kind of like version or material information, you want that more in the beginning, and maybe not use such a long name. Maybe layer height is less important than material type. I would think it would be. Oh, I gotta tell the ender to print. We are using ASA? No, we're using ABS. All right, so let me write that down as a bug. Where's my, that's not it. Where's my notes? All right, and where's my OBS Studio? Okay, so tell that to print maybe. So the first thing the Mini does again is cool down. So starting a print on the Mini can actually take longer than most of these other printers, but this is a conscious choice in the starting G code that you could choose to take out if you wanted to. But I think a lot of people are talking about doing it on the Mark III as well, as when you're doing your leveling, it will make it so it doesn't drool on the bed as much. All right. TPU is coming next. Mark III will most likely be first for it, so we'll go ahead and, this is a problem with the Mark III spool holder. That TPU is not going to fit. sometimes what you can do is you can remove the end of the spool holder and fit it in like that. But the spools that this affects more for me is AMZ 3D. They make some spools that have very small holes on them, and it won't fit on that Mark III spool holder. Let's see. Here goes the Mini, and this is with ASA. The Mark III did outstanding with ASA. The ASA looks perhaps better than the PLA. So let's see if the Mini does just as well. Hey Paul, it's going pretty well. We're almost done here. We probably have, well, I guess it's going to be 45 minutes of printing left, unfortunately. Just because TPU is going to have to be, I might have another roll of it, but the TPU is going to have to wait to get through all 3 printers, and that's going to be 45 minutes. So. I'm doing okay today. It's kind of hot in here. I have to clean after I finish the stream because my wife wants to decorate for Christmas. She hasn't done it yet, and I'm in her way. But yeah, it's going pretty well. I'm excited to play with this Mini. I'm excited to play with the Ender. This is the first time I ever played with an Ender. I see with the Ender, the skirt has come off the bed a little bit, and it might be in the way of the print. Let's see if we can see that. That little bit of blue sticking up, that's the skirt that's kind of just sticking in the air. I might try to grab it just so it doesn't screw up the print too bad. But you know what? I'm very surprised at the performance of ABS and ASA at such low temperatures. That's weird. The ASA here is looking rough on that first layer. So that first layer is looking kind of rough. Maybe it'll smooth itself out. It's almost like the Prusa MINI did not level the same that it did for any of the other materials. It's because those are signs of being too close to the bed. Everything I see there looks like it's too close to the bed. And it's weird because I haven't adjusted anything. It didn't do that on the ABS. I mean, on the ABS, okay, maybe there's a slight sign that it was too close to the bed for the ABS. But let's see if it'll recover that. Looks like we're just going to have a really rough bottom. It won't affect the rest of the print, but you know, it might be a sign that there may be variances in the reading of the probe, maybe based on temperature. So. Paul, you know, I don't think I saw that. Let me go look. I haven't been on Twitter this much this weekend. I think I liked a few things and then had to get off of Twitter. Oh, that's a nice Cybertruck, Paul. So if you all want, I mean, while you're here, obviously, go ahead and subscribe to my YouTube channel, and you know, give thumbs up and all of that. But while you're at it, if you guys have any social media, let me know, and I'll obviously we can share it here. Uh-oh, the dog is going to bark. 1 second, I'm going to mute the mic. Just trying to save your ears. Okay. Yeah, but follow Paul on Twitter. It's BigMan4021. But he printed a Cybertruck on his monoprice Select Mini. It's looking good. He also did a T800. Now, what's the gray you're using for that, Paul? It looks the same that you used on the T800. Yeah, this Cybertruck came out really well, Paul. But yeah, so go ahead and follow Paul on Twitter. See some of the cool things he's printing, and of course you can find me on Twitter, graybeard_3D. And then of course you found my YouTube. Check out my website too. If you haven't heard of it, I photograph all these different filaments I have, and I have several hundred filaments on the website, and that's just graybeard3d.com. Okay, so here is PETG from the Mark III, and PETG, of course, just strings a lot more, so you can see the wisps in there coming through. The overhangs look pretty good. You know, that one overhang at 10%, I'm surprised all of these printers are doing so well with a 10% overhang. You know, sometimes, like, if you do supports and breaking off supports, you can end up with a really rough surface. Maybe just that 10% overhang, maybe I want that as a surface more so than I'd want a rough surface and having to break off supports. So, but yeah, that's pretty incredible. But yeah, that came out really well. The top layer, of course, looks really good. Let me try to get that focus. The sunlight is playing a real trick on my cameras and stuff. I usually film at night when it's dark, so let's see. Try to get an angle that works with the sun instead of against it. So again, the first row is the Mark III, the second row is the Mini, and the last row is the Ender. So you can kind of see all these differences. This is the PETG. This is the ASA. I don't have it for the Mini yet. This is the PLA. And this is the ABS, and I don't have that for the Ender yet. So let me go ahead and get this TPU started. Oh, what brand of PLA is it, Paul? Sorry, I should have been more specific. It came out pretty clean for gray. This looks like a problem for me.
Ow.
So it looks like I might have a slight tangle on my PETG, so I'm gonna try to rewind it. Safety precaution. I'm not going to say it, but I've never had a jam from a tangle. But I didn't have a jam from it. I had a tangle, it looked like. Alright, so before I put that in there, I need to change my preheat down to a TPU. It's not much different. The big difference is the bed. Now, Prusa says that with TPU, you don't have to do anything special for the powder-coated bed. So this is going to be my first TPU print on a powder-coated bed with no protection. I'm kind of nervous. Oh, okay, so it's monoprices gray. I'm going to do a few loads of this TPU just to kind of make sure I flush out the PETG that might be in the way. Maybe one more. So yep, we're loaded. Pull that away. So it's a pretty good clear. And we will print and we will choose the TPU. There's the ASA on the Mini. I want to say that is not coming out anywhere near as nice as the ASA came out on the Mark III, specifically in the overhangs. It might look a little over extruded too. It's very weird. So we'll look at it when it's done. And then here's the ABS on the Ender 3. Looks like it's doing exactly what the Ender 3 did with all the other materials. Yeah, the skirt came off, but that's okay. Oh, it's actually done now too. So, let me make sure I mark these. So there's the ABS. I'm going to remove this little bit of gunk here because this is actually related to bed adhesion, and that's, as I said in the beginning, it's not what we're testing here. The overhangs actually look really good on this. We do have that weird shift right there at the top of this pillar. We still have the very thin, like, single layer, and I don't know why it's doing a single layer of what is that called? Bridging. And very weird single layer of that bridging. These should be double layer, and they didn't come out that way. The point in the middle does look short, just like they did on all the others. Now this Ender 3 profile was actually adopted exactly from the Mark III, and what changed really was retraction. And you could see in there I don't have any stringing, so I think I got the retraction right in there. But there is something else about the Mark III profile that the Ender 3 doesn't like. I might have slowed some things down for the Ender 2 to handle for the Bowden and everything, but we have a little bit of a slop right there on that. However, compared to the other printers, let me see if they're all marked. This one was the Mini. Compared to the Prusas, the Ender handled this ABS better, much better. So here's the Ender again, and here's the Mark III, and here's the Mini. So the Ender's in the middle. I don't want to confuse you all at all, but I'm trying to get all these to hold up at the same time. So if you look at the Ender in the middle and those overhangs, and look at how rough the Mark III and the Mini came out, they came out looking like horrible. The Ender, I want to say the Ender blew them away on that, other than that bridge. So, yeah, the Ender tore that up compared to the other two. The other two, I mean, look at those overhangs. They just came out like crap. So, so far, Yeah, so far they're all coming out very well here. So I'm very surprised. I'm surprised that the low temp that we're getting out of the ender is still working for some of these more advanced materials. I have to do a lot more work on the profile of the ender to kind of fix this top layer issue I'm having. But the ender absolutely blows away the Prusa printers, it looks like, on the cooling, the part cooling perhaps, which is weird, but it is what it is. Okay, let me get this ender unloaded while it's still hot. All right, sorry I've not seen some chat. Yeah, you know, what's really going to be interesting is I don't know how TPU is going to handle these overhangs at all. TPU is a weird material. So, oh, the Mini has done the ASA. Now, compared to the Mark III, it looks a lot worse. Let's see the Mark III. There's the Mark III. The Mark III ASA looks so clean, specifically in the overhangs. And again, I'll get higher res photos of these online, but the overhangs and the bridging on the Mark III absolutely blow it away. The ender had big problems with the overhangs and what I'd call, you know, problems with the bridge. So the ender 3 had quite a few issues with it. Part of the Mini's problem looks like the Pinda didn't measure the bed the same way it did for the other materials, so it has a lot of squish on that first layer. Like, it is a ridiculous amount. So it seems like it hasn't compensated for the temperatures properly. None of the other printers am I doing any sort of bed adjustments based on temperature. So it's kind of interesting, but there we are. You know, if you want to talk about like preheating the probe or whatever, the Mini actually just got finished printing ABS before this, so the probe should have been quite warm from the 100 degrees for ABS. So it looks like one of those things where you might have to take extra time every time you switch your materials to perhaps do a live Z adjustment for the Mini. Again, what the Mark III did with this material, I'm absolutely stunned, and it really comes through on the overhangs. So the Mark III is, let's see if I can get this, come on camera. The Mark III absolutely came through outstanding on them. Let me mark that up. Yeah. All right. The last one we're doing is the TPU. Unfortunately, it's just the way it worked out. We have to wait for it to go through all 3 printers. I can go downstairs, see if I have the exact same filament. I might. So I can mute this for a while and leave the camera on the Mark III while it's printing, and it might save us 15 minutes if I can find another roll of it. It'll be a different color though, unfortunately, and I don't know if people would think that's fair or not fair. I don't know. I'll be back. Okay, I can't find it. I went through my green boxes and my yellow boxes, and I thought I had it in that color. I'll just wait it out. You guys can come back in 30 minutes if you want to see the end of that. I need to unload. Oops. God, I keep doing that on the Mini. The Mini, the way they leave the menu to do a reprint every time gets me. I gotta learn. Because this, I'm gonna have to do that later anyway. I was gonna say I have to clear this nozzle on the ender when I'm done, but I have to still do the TPU. All right. Can you hear it? Yeah, you guys should be able to hear me now. So. Why did I do that? You know what I could do with this? I don't know if I printed a margin with this material yet. I can print a margin while we wait. Ow. 2 minutes remaining on this print, and then we're moving over to the Mini. And I'll likely just do the Marvins on the Mark III. I should have started the Marvin long ago if I wanted to do it during the stream. I don't speak Russian. I'm sorry. Меня зовут Жень. I think that's how I say it. I don't know. All right. You don't see too many people printing torture tests with their with TPU, so this is interesting. It did come off the bed okay without any special treatment. Where if you have the normal smooth PEI sheet, the bed will it'll stick too hard to the bed. So Oh man, I'm sorry, I need to switch this over here. All right, so it looks actually pretty good. The bridging is very droopy. It looks like even the short bridge down at the bottom was starting to have a challenge with it, but you know what? Those overhangs, those look pretty darn good. There is some stringing in there, but it's actually not that bad. It's not much worse than the PETG, but you can see some of the stringing that was coming out. Let me get a little pointer here. Some of it was starting to get a little thick in the beginning there, if that'll focus, but you can see a little bit of the thick string starting to come out there. So it was starting to get a little bit rough, but the fine wisps, I want to say, aren't even as bad as the PETG. So let me go ahead and get this swapped, and we can talk about it some more. So unload filaments. I do like that when I unload the Mini, it seems to remember what it had loaded. When I unload the Mark III, I have to tell it what I'm unloading. So there's a little bit of a difference there. I don't really like when I unload the Mini because, you know, in a way I'm sort of done. It heats up the nozzle and the bed, but it never unheats it. You have to remember to tell it to cool down if you're done for the day. Alright, so we're ready to go. So that was TPU. It is not a very soft TPU. It's probably more like the middle of the road, more similar to like Cheetah. Yeah, I'm very impressed how that came out. Have to leave, bedtime. Well, thank you so much for joining. I really, really, really appreciate everybody who joins. We're all just trying to learn here and see what these printers all do. I'm trying to be as transparent as possible with this. I hope everybody finds it transparent and fair. Not trying to hide anything. All right. So this spool does not really like the Mini spool holder, but we'll try. It usually falls off. And let me give this a fresh clip on the tip. That went somewhere. And load this up. Okay. Let's tell this Mini we're loading. Hopefully it asks us if we're loading. Yep, it does. We're loading Flex. All right, so it's pretty much ready to load since it was already warm. And there it goes. Yeah, you can see that spool wants to just jump right off of the spool holder there, and it will probably go on the floor and roll around and leave filament everywhere. So right now it's supposed to be purging. I noticed this the other day when doing TPU. It does not purge TPU properly. So it didn't even start purging, and it's already asking me if it got it right. And we're going to have to say no, and it's going to try again. And you want to tell it more or less to keep purging until we get something out. If you tell it, yeah, so if you say no, it'll do it one more time, but it doesn't ask you a third time. I think it should keep asking you, especially since the first time doesn't work. And I don't want to burn myself, so I'm going to move this aside and just try to get that out of the way. Oh, here comes some back pressure. So it's going to keep spitting out stuff for me. I'm going to put a little bit more glue stick up here because this can destroy the sheet. So I don't want to destroy my printer. And let's go ahead and tell it to print TPU. I will load, for the Prusas, I will load all the G-codes. If you want to use my exact G-code, I'll load all the G-codes right on prusaprinters.org. so you can download my exact G codes. I will also load the I'm drawing blanks right now, man. I will also load the STLs onto Prusa printer, and I'll load the STLs on Thingiverse. But I'm not going to put G code on Thingiverse. I don't think it's really the place for it. Okay. While I have the Mark III hot, I'm going to print a Marvin in this PETG because I don't think I've done it yet. And I'll probably after that do this one, but this will be off stream, so no worries. Yeah, so let me mark it. The Mini right now is trying to cool down to 170 as it does for all prints. Yeah, the Mark III I think killed it for the TPU. Oops. Yes, and print from SD. So I keep knocking over my little dominoes here, but so this is our TPU print off the Mark III. We don't have it on any other printer yet. Let me try to get some focus for y'all. But those overhangs absolutely impressed me for TPU. The bridging is expected. I mean, that's just what it is. TPU just tends to stay hotter and softer longer, so it's going to droop in your bridge. More cooling can help that. I don't know what, I'd have to look at the profile for the Mark III, but it might need bridging set to 100 fan speed. That might do it. I don't know, it might already have it. Here's the ASA. The ASA for the Mark III, it was the cleanest for ASA by far. The ASA for the Mini was very good. And then for the Ender, I think started falling apart, especially that 10% overhang, the bridging, and we just have some like warping or something in that top part. ABS for, let me try to get focus back. ABS for the Mark III, these overhangs look really bad. Even the 40-degree one, it just looks horrible. Same with the Mini, but the Ender overhangs actually came out much better. And I'll put high-res photos out there. You all saw these print live. I didn't do anything special. The PLA for the Mark III looks very good, probably near perfect there. I did have a blob, and it looks like some material that was maybe stuck to the nozzle or the heat block fell into the print. This happens when you have a real old printer that just might have some material built up on it. The Mini came out very well, but we do have a little bit of a droop in the bridge. The overhangs came out very well, except the 10% has a little bit, and the 30% has a little bit, but the 20 and the 40 came out perfect. The spire is nice and pointy. There is some very light stringing in there, but for the most part, that came out really well. The Ender had something with the bed adhesion here. It could just be, it could be anything, but this is like a first layer problem, which is not part of what we're trying to look at today. The overhangs look really good on it. The spire is not as pointy as the Mark III. The bridging looks like it came out cleaner, but the bridging doesn't ever do the second layer on the Ender, and I don't know why yet. I have to look at it. I copied the Ender 3 profile from the Mark III profile, and I started to modify it from there. So I shouldn't have changed anything with bridging. Here is PETG on the Mark III. Came out very good, very clean. There is some wisps in there. PETG does get wispier, and the overhangs look pretty good. Of course, 10% is a little bit rough, but still not bad. Here it is on the Mini. I want to say very similar to the Mark III, except the bridge has that same sort of dip in it that it did for like the PLA and all the other prints, and the stringing does appear worse than the Mark III. And then here's the ender, and the ender I think has a little bit less of the wisps. The bridge or the overhang on the 10% looks pretty bad, but the others look great. The spire or the thing in the middle is not as pointy, which seems to be a consistent habit of it. And the bridge didn't get the second layer as we've seen on all the other prints. I might investigate why this happened with the ender. It might just be another profile setting. I'm not sure, because it just seems like it didn't even try to do another layer on there. So I'm just not sure how it went from a Mark III profile and got kind of like that much different on that specific aspect of the print, but everything else worked out. So we're doing the TPU on the Mini right now, and this is a little bit of a stiffer TPU, more along the lines of Cheetah, but you can see it flex here. I don't want to flex it too much. I don't want to break any of the strings, but you can absolutely see the flex in it. And I don't want to break the strings until I get some good photos of this for you guys to view online. And I'll move this closer for you. Right. So how's everyone else doing? Anybody watching sporting events today? You can hear the Mark III going to town on the Marvin. Hopefully it stays stuck. Those little feet on the Marvin really like to come loose. They're just very small contact points. Fortunately, this is PETG, so it does like to stick a lot. I generally print my Marvins at 0.15 millimeters. I have some that are printed at 0.2. For the most part, it doesn't affect color. Now the Mark III, I don't know if the sound's coming through, but it's pretty loud. Like compared to most printers, it's not loud, but hearing it after hearing the Mini for so long, it is loud. However, I have it in high speed mode. If I set it to, let's see, I should be able to set it to quiet mode. And there's quiet mode. This is the M3D Tough Ink, yes. Sorry about that, Adam. Yes, this is the M3D Tough Ink. The ASA we used today was the Prusa ASA, the Prusa MINI. The PLA we used today was Atomic PLA. The ABS we used was Amazon Basics, the original Amazon Basics ABS. The PETG used today was the recycled filament from Greengate 3D. I think they're relatively new. They, I guess, announced at IRF this year. So I didn't want to pick all one brand or anything like that. I just wanted to pick stuff that people may end up with some weird random roll, and I really think this M3D stuff is kind of like my weird random roll of stuff. So is the Ender 3 tuned? The Ender 3 is not necessarily tuned. I made a profile with it, I did some tests, made sure that stringing was eliminated. However, I wouldn't call it a tuned profile, and the machine itself is not tuned. I built the machine as if, hey, I just got an Ender 3, I'm going to build it, and here it is. It is the Pro version, which means it has a magnetic bed, which means your heated bed is limited to 70 degrees roughly, or you can kill the magnetism on the bed. Now, with that said, I didn't really tune the Mini, and I didn't tune the Mark III. So, maybe I can get that closer. Yeah, so quiet mode on the Mark III really does make it quieter. Yeah, Adam, I think the Mini is a great first printer. In fact, like some people say, oh, it's costs more than some of the other printers out there, but it has a lot of nice features to make things easier, such as helping you load the filament or having so many different settings for different types of filament. It makes it so much easier. Did you get the one with both beds, or did you get just the single bed? Yeah, I absolutely recommend the Mini. Now, I was also surprised with the Ender, how well that's doing so far. I think the big thing with the Ender is, I hear the parts may break more frequently or more easily. I don't know. I will know in 6 months, but I don't know right now. Same with the Mini, but the support from Prusa is so good. But we don't know what might start breaking on the Mini in 6 months. Just single, extruder or single printer? I typically recommend people to avoid dual extruder printers. Dual extruder printers are usually not really built well on the low end of the market. You want to get something with IDEX or something along those lines if you want dual. I guess it could be considered a problem, Adam, but you know, Prusa's been doing a good job at this stuff. I kind of had the faith in them. Plus, I saw this printer operating. I think they had a couple of them operating at IRF this year, and I saw it printing. It was printing fine. So I didn't really think it was that much of a lottery. Oh, single bed. Oh, sorry about that. Keeping up with the other conversations. So the single bed's great. It's the smooth one, which is better for PLA, which is where I recommend most people start anyway. So now the bridging is about to come up on the Mini, and this is where TPU really can struggle, because TPU doesn't cool as fast as the other materials, so it doesn't harden as fast. And then on the bridge it will start to kind of like sag down. So here's the Mark III for comparison. Let's see, yeah, that's on. Try to get it in the same light. Hit it a little bit, that's okay. So it is, yeah, the bridge is sagging, and I can see it sagging now on the Mini as well. It's just the way TPU is. The Mini looks like it has quite a bit more stringing on TPU than the Mark III had. Specifically the real rough stringing that you see around the edge of that pillar. It could absolutely be an effect of the Bowden, or it could absolutely just be it needs just a little bit more retraction. So yeah, if you can only get one bed, get the smooth bed. There are going to be times when you want to print something and it's supposed to glue to another part, and you don't want a rough surface that you're supposed to glue to, or you're going to have a hard time. So we have 2 minutes left on this, and then we will do the ender. I should say, most of the time in the manual when you're printing TPU, they recommend that you loosen up the extruder so it doesn't grab it so tight. I did no such thing. I just let it grab it as is and went with it. And I'm going to do the same thing to the ender. It's just going to, whatever it grabs it as is what's going to happen. So, actually, so the Mini did better with that bridge than the Mark III did. And I want to say that because the top is more complete than the Mark III. The Mark III on the left here has some gaps in the top, and the top here is more complete. On the overhangs, it looks like the Mark III did slightly better. It might not come through apparently on the camera. And on that left pillar there, and on that on the pyramid in the middle, the Mini looks a lot more rough than the Mark III did. These can all be effects of just not having the right retraction setting, or it could just simply be we're at a limit of what the Bowden system can do. So let me try to get this off. This is the real challenge with this particular bed. Okay. Might have to work on this front piece a little bit here. TPU loves to stick to PEI, which is what this bed coating is. So you can take precautions, but it's still what it is. Good enough. Okay. Let's go ahead and unload this filament. I will mark this one up. Right mini on it. Oh, no, I do not agree with that. Retraction is fine, but you might want to tune the speed. I would not turn off retraction with TPU, but I would tune the speed and the distances. Now with that said, I don't know what Prusa did. I used their profile. I'll look at it and I'll let you know what they did. Okay, so the M3D roll is too small for fitting on the ender as well. Not surprising, it's almost too small for the Mini. It was too small to fit on the Mark III as well in standard configuration, so it's just a little tiny roll. Heat this up. For ABS, I guess. Okay, so let me cool off the Mini here. Preheat and cool down. Possibly Roman, but honestly the Ender cooling fan has done better than the Prusa cooling fans. However, it is true because the Ender cooling fan is blowing on the overhangs directly, where the Prusa cooling fans are blowing from the back or the front, and not directly on the overhangs. So that could explain why the Ender did better. If you rotate it 90 degrees or rotate it 40 degrees or whatever, maybe. Or maybe you should print the test file relative to the cooling fan, whatever orientation that is. However, for this test, I'm not rotating anything. I'm not changing anything between the printers other than you just using a proper profile for the printer. So that means the Ender on these overhangs looks better. Just want to make sure I marked all these. I think I did, yeah. There goes the Good night, Adam. Thank you for coming out. so the ender has warmed up. I'm going to start to get this TPU loaded, and then I'll move the camera to see it. TPU is a little bit harder to feed into the ender than the other materials. I think the extruder, it looks like it's not going to have much problems with it, but pushing it from the outside in gets a little challenging. I think I almost have it fully loaded here. I just want to make sure I clear enough of the old material. So, all right. Let's look at this ender. Move the mic a little bit. So, clear this material that we have built up over here from clearing the nozzle. And let's go ahead and tell it to print it. Print. Uh-oh, where is my TPU profile? Might have not copied it to the printer. 1 second. I made it. I just don't know where it is. Ugh. All right. Finder. Yeah, there's the file. Oh, it says it's on there. Why didn't the printer show it? All right, I'll replace it just in case something happened on the copy or something. Try this again. We have to do that. PETG, ASA, ABS, PLA. It's not showing it. Maybe it buried it? Oh, it moved it. So it put it in a different order. It's very weird. All the other ones are at the very top of the menu, but this TPU one, it moved way to the bottom. I don't know why. It's just a quirk. I do have some glue stick on the underbed as well because I do not know how it behaves with TPU. So to protect the bed, I use glue stick just like I did on the Mini. And this is the last print. So the files will be out tonight on Thingiverse and on Prusa printers. So you guys can try them yourself as well. And all the high-res photos I'll probably get out tonight, and I'll post those to the Reddit post I already have, and to as a reply to maybe my Twitter post. I might just make a Imgur folder for it and just put it all in Imgur. If you guys have any other things you'd like to see tested with the Ender 3 or the Prusa Mini or even the Mark III, let me know. I have these printers here available, so I can do some tests for you before you decide what kind of printer you want to get. I favor the Prusa, but that's just my opinion. I'm trying to make this as open as I can, showing you exactly what I'm doing. No tricks. In case I didn't say it, welcome to the stream, Andre and Cleveland CNC and Roman Tire. Thank you so much for joining. I do appreciate it. Please hit the subscribe button if you like what you saw today. Go ahead and leave a comment below if you want to see any other tests with these printers. If you want any measurements, if you want anything else. Now, interesting enough, and maybe I did it wrong, but the Minda probe, which is what they call the probe on the Prusa MINI, the Minda stands for the mini probe, but when I tested it, it's actually, I want to say, the same thread diameter as the original Pinda probe, and I want to say it's like 1 millimeter taller, so it's not really a mini probe, unless something came out wrong. I'll measure it one more time here, but it's absolutely, yeah, I get 768, 76, maybe that is, let's see, 786. Yeah, they're coming out about the same height, same width, so I don't know why they're calling it mini. Maybe Joe can tell me. Is it really smaller, Joe? Am I missing a dimension? Jeez. All right. So, yeah, with TPU on the ender, we're getting a lot of stream. The overhangs, again, look better, I want to say. Well, maybe not. Maybe a little bit better than the Mini, but not better than the Mark III. Again, though, the ender has the fan blowing the right way, are blowing directly on those overhangs, and that's probably what's really helping it achieve those overhangs. But it was able to achieve the best looking overhangs overall out of all the printers, except for ASA. ASA it completely bombed on. It's really weird. Clippers. It looks like for the ender, you need a lot more retraction than the machine is using. So a big change in the retraction would probably help this a lot. Hey Greg, thanks for joining. We're about wrapped up. This is the very last print you see here, and it's 73% complete, so it's going to be done in probably 3 minutes. I'll go over all the prints one last time. I'll show you guys a final shot of them, and you can see whatever you see out of them. Greg, today we're testing the Mark III, the Prusa MINI, and the Ender 3 with 5 different materials. We have PLA, PETG, ABS, ASA, and TPU. What you see here printing right now is the last material, which is TPU, and it's printing on the Ender 3. Once this is done, we will look at all the final prints, and I'll go over exactly what brand I used, and you can see what they are. We're at 83%, so probably just another minute or two here, and we will wrap up, and we're all done for the day. Yeah, ABS is challenged. Today we didn't even have enclosures, so we did it on all 3 machines without an enclosure. The ender, I think, looked the best for the ABS. All right, let's look at all these. Wrap this up here. So, I gotta get my OBS Studio on screen here so I can see what I'm looking at. Okay, so the Mk3 is the bottom row, the Mini is the middle row, and the top is the ender. Here we have ASA from Prusa MINI. Here we have ABS from Amazon Basics. Here we have PLA from Atomic. Here we have TPU called Tough Ink from M3D. And here we have PETG from Greengate. It's a recycled PETG. All of these printers are, more or less using basic out-of-the-box tunes, something you might have if you were to buy these printers. So it's not, they aren't fine-tuned or they aren't tweaked. So there is potential for all of these to improve. However, this is what came out of them. This is what we have. And I'll be taking high-res photos of these and posting them online. Also, I'm going to be posting the STLs tonight, but that's pretty much it. So thank you everybody for watching. Please hit the like and subscribe button if you like what you see. Leave a comment below if you have any other things you want to see printed on any of these 3 printers, and I'll get it done for you. But I really hope you like what you saw, and I really appreciate everybody coming out. If I don't talk to you before then, but happy holidays and all of that. So thank you so much for joining today. I'm going to go ahead and end this stream. So y'all enjoy.